And I say all this to say that we did not, in fact, originate in West Africa. Um, the people responsible for civilizations in West Africa, such as Ouagadougou or ancient Ghana, ancient Mali, Songhai, Kanem, Bornu, and so on, all have histories of migrations from the east from another great river. The Mandinka and all the peoples who speak variations of this language, such as Malinka and Minyanka and so on, have a history of migrating to West Africa from the east. So do the Sarakole, or the Soninke and so on. Ayikwe Armah does a fine job in his book, The Eloquence of the Scribes, to detail these traditions of migration held by not only people in West Africa, but also people in Central Africa as well. He details oral histories of people such as the Akan, Ewe, Ga Dangbe, and so on, coming down south from some of those civilizations to the north, and noted that these ancestors and ancestresses who came down into modern-day Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, and so on were all tall and pitch-black peoples. And they said that the people who were already here when they got here were relatively short and light-skinned people. Cheikh Anta Diop in several of his books showed the linguistic and clan links by the Wolof people in Senegal as well as some other peoples in Senegal such as the Serer to languages and clans or families of people in the east and central parts of Africa. The only peoples that were here from the time of the earliest reports of travels to West Africa were the Twa people, those pejoratively called pygmies by white folk. And those are exactly the people who are mentioned as already being here upon our arrival to West Africa in our oral traditions. And even the Twa themselves migrated to West Africa from the south. The Congo peoples have an oral history telling about how they were a part of a great civilization that existed in what is now the Sahara, but that back then it was lush and green. Cissé is also another great quote-unquote griot from Senegal who has written books, albeit in French, about the histories of migrations from the east of West African peoples. Ayikwe Armah goes into some of his writings as well. We migrated from those areas for the same reasons why some of us migrated from the collapsing empire of Ouagadougou. It was always due to either invasions by white people, including Arabs, as was the case in the east of Africa, or because of invasions by their bastard offsprings, who generally go by a term that they usurped from the indigenous original African people of these areas. That term is Berber. And these people still classify themselves as white today, a testimony to their allegiance to the pervading culture of their invading fathers since ancient times. It would be people like them and Africans who had formerly been in contact with them and now followed their religion that would always have our people on the move. The Akan people have an oral history telling about their migration from ancient Ghana due to the invasion of Muslims and how they forced people to become Muslims and do away with their own African culture. In that oral history, they also state that their ancestors and ancestresses were once again tall and pitch black, and the people they came into contact with in modern-day Ghana were short and relatively light-skinned, and we intermixed with them. We have these cutoff points because we migrate to a place, we stay there for a while, it becomes home, and then for whatever reason we may need to uproot ourselves again and migrate to someplace else. So what some scholars have done in order to connect the chain is they go from place to place and find the links. There's always some of our people who stay behind, who are or were a part of a larger ethnic group that migrated. Over time, some names and some customs change, and oftentimes when you're dealing with African people practicing African culture and religion, when they move into another area, they don't necessarily attempt to replace the culture that is already there where they have come. A lot of times what we do, as it's a part of the process of indigenization, if you will, we take on certain elements of the culture and language of the people that are already there, since we're fundamentally a spiritual people, and we always try to form relationships with the local deities of the area who will speak the given dialect of the area. Whether you quote-unquote believe in deities or not, it's a reality that this is something that African people do. However, they will always have their migration stories telling where they have immediately come from, the last place that they have come from. Then when the scholars go to that place, they find the people there and they study the links. Some groups broke off of a larger group and became a distinct group, but usually the maternal and paternal clan and family names stay intact. And some remember that they used to be a part of this group, or some remember that some other group used to be a part of their ethnic group and whatnot. But those people that are there, that never left, they still have their migration stories about coming from elsewhere as well. So it's like a chain link. You just jump from place to place and find out where these people saying that they came from originally. Even in DeGraff Johnson's work, African Glory, he tells of stories of there being Akan families of people, specifically Fanti people in the Congo region. We migrated all over the continent quite possibly several times. We all didn't just stay in one place for hundreds of thousands of years. Stuff happens. Whether it's invasions, wars, droughts, whatever, you move and you go and build elsewhere. So, I say all that to say that it's all ours. Kemet is ours. The legacy of Kemet belongs to the minority of black people that are still right there now in Egypt. It belongs to the black people that are there in Sudan and all up and down the east coast of Africa. Kemet was a conglomeration of different ethnic groups of African people. That's the level of civilization we create whenever we decide to come together and do the damn thing. And definitely we must also recognize and appreciate our most recent achievements in Africa, such as Kanem and Bornu, Menopotapa, Ouagadougou, Mali, Songhai, Ife, Oyo, Congo, Angola, Cuba, Jollof, Onitsha, Inri, Arochukwu, and so on. I say claim them all. It's all ours, and there's nothing to be ashamed of as a people in any other people's eyes. Damn other people's eyes, damn what other people think, damn what other people say. These civilizations are what worked for us for tens of thousands of years, far longer than these European or Western civilizations have ever lasted. Kemet alone outlasted all of the European civilizations that you can think of combined. So, you know, again, these are the civilizations that worked for us, and you know what we should be doing is studying them to find out the good and the bad, what needs to be discarded, what needs to be improved, and what we can implement today from those societies in order to replicate what was done and make it even better for us today. Hetep.